The humid air hung heavy over the Florida backroads. It pressed down on us like a malevolent entity itself. We were on our way to investigate not one but two haunted jails. These weren't just any jails. These were places where despair and violence had soaked into the very walls. Sam and Colby, seasoned paranormal investigators, were about to embark on a journey. They'd spend 50 hours alone, each in a different jail, no backup, no communication. This was a new level of intensity, even for them. This time, the guys wanted to see if isolation amplified the paranormal activity. Would they be more susceptible to the whispers of the dead? Or would the silence drive them mad? Old Hamilton County Jail stood like a tombstone against the Florida sky. Built in 1893, it was more than just old. It was a repository of suffering, a place where the worst of humanity had played out. This jail had seen it all: legal hangings, suicides, and countless deaths within its cells. The energy here was palpable, a suffocating blanket of despair. I could feel it in my bones, and I hadn't even stepped inside yet. Local legend claimed the jail was built on an ancient Indian burial ground. Whether true or not, the stories fueled the darkness that permeated every corner of this place. Colby drew the short straw, or perhaps the longest one, depending on how you looked at it. He was assigned to Old Hamilton. This was a place where even the bravest hesitated. From the moment he stepped inside, Colby was bombarded. EVPs crackled through his headphones. Shadows danced at the edge of his vision. He even attempted to communicate with the spirits using a deck of cards, a game he called blackjack with spirits. The responses were chilling. Names were spelled out, dates that corresponded to documented deaths within the jail. Colby pushed further, asking about the spirits' experiences. The answers he received sent chills down his spine. An hour away, by car, stood Old Gilchrist County Jail. If Hamilton was a tomb, Gilchrist was an enigma. A fire had ripped through the building years ago, consuming not just its records but its history. What remained was a shell, a skeletal reminder of a past shrouded in mystery. Even the locals seemed hesitant to speak of it. The fire had been devastating, but some whispered it was no accident. Something dark resided here, something that wanted to remain hidden. Section 5. Sam's sensory deprivation, terror in the darkness. Sam, never one to back down from a challenge, decided on a sensory deprivation experiment at Gilchrist. He would be blindfolded, handcuffed, and left alone in one of the cells. The silence was the first thing that hit him. It wasn't a peaceful quiet, but a heavy, oppressive silence that seemed to hum with unseen energy. Then the sounds began. Tapping on the walls, disembodied voices whispering his name. Sam's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to rip off the blindfold, to break free from the handcuffs, but he forced himself to stay put. Fear, he knew, was a powerful tool for entities looking to manipulate. He would not give them the satisfaction. Section 6. Whispers from Beyond, the entities of the jails. Both Colby and Sam encountered distinct entities during their investigations. At Hamilton, Colby made contact with a spirit named Robert, a former inmate who met a gruesome end within the jail's walls. Robert's energy was heavy, filled with anger and resentment. He spoke of betrayal and a thirst for revenge that death couldn't quench. Sam's experiences at Gilchrist were different. The entity he encountered was less defined, more primal. Locals called it the Crawler, a name that sent chills down your spine. Sam couldn't explain it, but he felt a malevolence emanating from the shadows, a presence that seemed to feed off his fear. Section 7. Equipment malfunctions and unexplained phenomena. The paranormal activity wasn't limited to disembodied voices and shadowy figures. Both Colby and Sam experienced significant equipment malfunctions. Batteries drained in minutes, cameras shut down without warning, and EVP recorders picked up strange interference. At one point, Colby's phone, which he was using as a flashlight, died completely. He was plunged into darkness, the only light coming from the faint glow of the moon through the barred windows. It was then that he felt something brush against his arm, cold and insubstantial. He spun around, adrenaline surging, but there was nothing there. Section 8. Lessons learned. The importance of separation. The decision to investigate separately was a deliberate one. Both Colby and Sam knew that isolation could amplify their experiences, making them more susceptible to the paranormal. It was a risk, but one they were willing to take. In the end, the 50 hours they spent alone in those haunted jails tested them both physically and mentally. They faced their fears, confronted entities, and experienced phenomena that defied explanation. They learned that sometimes the greatest danger in the paranormal isn't the entities themselves, but the darkness that resides within us all. Section 9. Conclusion. A haunting reminder of the past. The sun beat down on us as we drove away from the jails. The air, though still thick with humidity, felt lighter somehow. We had faced the darkness, and we had emerged, shaken but not broken. Old Hamilton and Gilchrist stood as haunting reminders of the past, places where the veil between our world and the next seemed thin. The experiences we had there would stay with us, a chilling reminder that some places hold on to their secrets long after the living have moved on.